Yeah, man. Okay, it's Dr. Manny. Now, Facebook is saying that my connection is weak, which, my Wi Fi is saying it's got all bars. So let's see what happens. I'll do a sound check in a bit to see as more people come in who is able to hear me. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this topic. So, self sabotage. Now, to even be able to begin to care about and notice self sabotage, you have to have a vision in place. The vision is the desired outcome, the dream, the idea enacted and alive and working outside of your head. Whatever place it is, that nirvana that you want to go, has to exist. Because if you don't have that vision in place and it's not one that's personally motivating to you and it's not pulling you, then you're not really going to ever notice when other less pleasurable or even more immediately accessible pleasures show up and pull you off track because there was never really a track to get off of. Now, even further, you won't have a track to get back on without the initial vision. So, creating the initial vision and making sure that it's personally relevant, personally inspiring, personally motivating is step one. Now, once you've got this vision, what often happens is along the way to the vision, you're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit betrayals in relationships. Life is happening as life does. And you're going to find that different things are going to hit you and cause you to question yourself and so on. Some of these things will hit you more subtly and you won't notice that there's a bit of identity threat. And then your brain, when these subliminal jabs happen, what your brain does to cope with that as an ego defense is self-sabotage. It's one of the three forms of resistance. Again, procrastination is another form of resistance we're all familiar with, where you put off doing the thing because of all kind of subconscious defenses, subconscious fears and whatever that you're not quite ready to face, and as such, you're not quite ready to cross the chasm, to use that metaphor. Now, the third one is self-deception, where you just lie to yourself about who you are, what you could be, how badly you want it. If you're in that circle, then you're never going to head out on the road to your vision. But again, once you're on your vision, on your way to your vision, or even as you're thinking about the vision, self-sabotage kicks in, where knowing what the vision is going to look like, at a certain point, the fear kicks in and you start to do things that prevent you from getting to vision. Now, how could that look? That can look like using up resources that were allocated to the vision. Now, if you know you have a certain budget, you have a certain amount of time, and you have certain people, certain relationships who are coordinating with you, and those things need to happen in the right way. Self-sabotage can involve everything from burning up the time on something else, burning up the money on something else, so that when it's time to execute that part of the vision, you don't have the resources, or you under execute and it doesn't become the grand success that it could have been had you just executed without sabotaging self. Now, the other element in the relationship elements, there's self-sabotage can show up as isolating yourself from those resources, the people who support you emotionally to make the journey, the people who encourage you, the people who inspire you, the people who share the vision. A lot of times this has to do with having a sense of not feeling worth the reward on the other side. This happens a lot of time with guilt-based narratives. A lot of us grew up in certain church-based narratives, especially Christian and current Protestant work-based narratives that have a certain amount of guilt. And if you accumulate enough of that guilt after a while, you'd be like, well, maybe I shouldn't get to heaven. I don't deserve to get to heaven, or I don't deserve the promised land, or whatever's over that threshold. I'm not worthy. I haven't been good enough. I'm not of the right genetic stock. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Whatever it is that you decide you can't cross over with, when those kick in, you might isolate yourself from the tribe heading to that destination. You might isolate yourself from the inner circle that sees the real you and is taking you on this journey of unfolding when you kind of feel as if this part of you is not worth being seen. If this part of your shadow, this part of your darker side is still a little bit in control, you haven't taken the time to exercise it, delve into it, get to know it, and develop a proficiency where you trust that part of yourself in that context. All of that can kick in subconsciously without you wanting to process it in your conscious mind because, again, it hurts. It has a bit of threat to identity. Hey, Joe, thanks for dropping by, bro. I appreciate it. Hey, Christine, how's it going? Yeah, no, I'll definitely post it afterwards for sure. Yeah. So as you're on this journey, what this journey is really is a journey to identity development is what it is. Development of your self model. So when you're sabotaging self, what you're doing is damaging this bigger, more expansive mental model, the self concept of you. You're kind of digging away at it and injuring it because of a sense of shame, a sense of guilt, a sense of just negative emotions that at some point created a wound that you didn't work out. And when along this journey, the trials and tribulations stick you in that wound, if you're not quite ready to face the wound, open it up, examine it, feel the pain, and pull out whatever is in there so that that area can start to become one of your strengths acquired along the journey, then when you feel that pain, self-sabotage is really a defense mechanism. Really, it's an in medicine we have a hyperimmune response, and sometimes we have an autoimmune response where your immune system attacks itself. So self-sabotage is really another extension of that. Hey, Dr. Marie. Hey, Dr. Chris. Thanks for joining, y'all. So what happens is essentially when you hear self-sabotage, really think of it as an ego defense, a self-defense mechanism. Now, when you think of ego as the story that is carrying you through life, that has helped you organize your personal narrative. It's how you sense. It's your understanding of your gender, the roles associated with it, your social class, the roles associated with it, your career choice, the roles associated with it, and within those, the expectations of behaviors embedded within that particular role, and as such, the way in which society will perceive, value, measure, and possibly kick you out of that role based on your performance of it, based on those assets. Now, if you don't feel like you're up to any of those assets, and you won't be because it's a journey, it's an identity development journey, you'll eventually on your deathbed be like, I did good with these. But if you don't get a clear view on the vision, like I said at the beginning, then you won't see where you are in that vision and be able to walk around in it in the first person such that it invigorates you, it excites you. Once it invigorates you and excites you, then you have that valence, that power, that sympathy with that moment in your future, with your future self, that you could pull back into the present now and compare to the feeling of sitting on this side of the chasm, this side of that development in your journey. And with that vision of the future, the more you make the vision of the future, the more you rehearse it, the more you practice it, the more you step through the parts of the role, the more you imagine the expectations and map them to intentions on your part to embody, enact, and develop the habits along the way that are needed for that role, the more prepared you are to notice the times during which self-sabotage in a given context has you doing actions that are contrary to our only brilliant ones. We have the vision, because vision has things that you value embedded in it. If one of the things that you want dearly is to have your kids there with you celebrating on your last days as part of your legacy, Then, if you find that the job you're doing during the day is sucking up the time with your kids, not only time wise, but energetically, when you get home, it's draining your ability, is limiting your ability to show up, and it's draining the energy, such that really what you're doing is passing on this legacy of subjugation, this legacy of guilt and exhaustion as the symbol of parenting that your kids are mimicking. So all those aspects of self-development, if you're not thinking about what the ideal future is going to be like, is going to be, and how the assets in your present, the relationships, the finances, the words you use, your integrity, your sleep pattern, your the way you're joking with people, the meals you're eating, the exercise, the dreams that you're dreaming, the things that you're imagining, until you see those in the context of the vision, the bigger, broader ideal, and are able to pull out the elements that you value so that you realize and feel palpably, measurably when you're doing things that are contrary to those particular values, that are weakening those areas of strength, then you're not going to be on this journey. You're still on this side of the chasm, this side of that part of identity development. But the chasm is scary to go across because it's just like in the graphic I chose here, if you look across it, you see it's beautiful, but as you are now, you're not ready to reach it. And you'll be ready to reach it when you overcome those particular elements of resistance, whether it be the procrastination to get up off your butt and do the things that need to happen, to call the people, to follow up, to do the self-improvement work, whatever it is, until you get to the point where you overcome the procrastination element. Until you get to the point where you overcome the self-deception element, where you're lying to yourself about your limitations, where you're lying to yourself about how grand your future can be. Because as long as you're telling yourself that the future is going to be smaller than the future that you are destined for, it's not going to be magnetic. And as such, you can go through life a bit of a conformer, and you could check off all the boxes and get the grades and the accolades and the status and those elements associated with the outer materialistic markings of success. But in the end, those elements will very much have been the path to self-sabotage, because yourself, the identity, the narrative that's larger than the ego, which is bound to the status symbols, will have starved as a consequence of you misallocating your energy to these things that, as a result of not having taken the time to explore and do the introspection and do the reflection as to what your narrative is, how you want it to look, what the vision is on the other side of the chasm that you're headed is going to look like, by virtue of not having gotten that clear picture and brought it into the present, all these little sub-elements that allowed you to settle for a watered-down, weaker version. Thanks, Marie. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to repost it right afterwards. Thanks again. But until you have a clarity on that vision, you're not going to be able to notice when you're self-sabotaging. Now, again, I've discussed some of the different ways that self-sabotage can kick in, but it's important to recognize that across all these different ways, the one thing you can count on universally, even though it shows up in different ways, in different situations, and as you get more advanced in your pursuit of mastery, self-sabotage shows up in more subtle ways, because by then you're honing in on who you are. You've accumulated your major formative core structures of identity, and now you're looking for more subtle elements, like elements where your tribe might be headed somewhere and you feel a little tension and you're not sure what it is about the destination of the tribe as a whole that isn't satisfying to your sense of self. So it might be easy to settle there because with the tribe you have status, you're one of the elders or whatever. But at that point, staying there might be a form of self-sabotage. Not exploring and inquiring and choosing someone who's headed where you want to be can another form of self-sabotage. Hey, Nina, thanks for dropping in. So you you want to have this concept in mind and become increasingly astute at noticing it, because it's a predator prey relationship with your time. And in predator prey dynamics, as you become better at noticing and honing in on who you're going to become and who you're in the process of unfolding to, you'll get more precise and more refined in the values which make for an experience that is more positive. And as such, there will be more subtle nuances in the elements of self-sabotage, which are in the micro moment the wrong choice. Because when you make these choices, you're going down this path of consciousness. And I'm not talking consciousness in the abstract way. I'm talking consciousness in your mental model of who you are, how you fit within the larger narrative of the collective, and why you're here, what you're doing, what you should be doing, and how good you're at it. Just all those elements that, again, are part of the unfolding of values and strengths embedded within this larger narrative that is your vision of who you are and who you're becoming and what will be left when you're gone. So, to me, those are the core ideas around self-sabotage. Yeah. Thank you guys for dropping by and checking it out. All right. Dr. Manny, I'm out.